We're all living in a new normal, right? You've got a new normal, and your old normal is gone, at least for now, and things keep changing. So we're starting to go through different versions of new normal. But what do you want your new normal to look like? So welcome to Thriving During COVID-19. This is based on the success principles, how to get from where you are to where you want to be, and I'm Jody Hempel. So the success principles are based on a book by the same name by Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield is an author, so you may know him best by Chicken Soup for the Soul. But he's also a motivational speaker and a corporate trainer, and he's been working with people for over 40 years, helping them achieve their dreams. So the success principles are a set of 64 principles that always work if you work them. Now, I'm not going to cover all 64 today, don't worry. We're just going to look at a few of them, the ones that are most important as we go through this new normal. Orrin Hudson is a state chess champion. He's also a motivational speaker. And he said this about the success principles. If you know the combination to the lock, it doesn't matter who you are, it has to open. But the problem is that most people don't have all the numbers, or they have them in the right order. So just like a combination lock, the success principles are going to work for you. It doesn't matter, you think about a combination lock, it doesn't matter if you're old or young, male or female, tall or short, married or single. If you've got the numbers in the right order, it's going to open for you. Doesn't matter who you are, right? But on the other hand, if you don't have all the numbers, or you don't have them in the right order, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you're not going to get them to open. So the same thing, if you've got all the numbers and in the right order, the success principles will work. In fact, the promise of the success principles are that if you make 100% commitment to them, in 2 years or less, you can dramatically improve any area of your life. You can double your income, double your free time, have more balance and fun, achieve greater emotional fulfillment and inner peace. Nice, right? So a RE/MAX office in Indiana went through the success principles, and that office doubled its total sales in under 2 years. And 86% of their agents doubled or tripled their income in 2 years or less. Rick up in British Columbia said the success principles totally transformed my business. My business doubled in just 2 years. But the thing is, you have to work it. You can't hire other people to do your push-ups for you. I wish I could. But if I hired someone to do my push-ups, it would be their muscles that were getting bigger, not mine. So on the count of 3, I want you to say this with me. So 1, 2, 3. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Jody Hempel, and I am a Jack Canfield Certified Success Principles trainer. I live in Tucson, Arizona. I'm a speaker, a trainer, and an author. And I have to say, my life is pretty darn awesome. But it wasn't always that way. When I was in my late 20s, I became self-employed for the first time. And after a couple of years, I lost everything. I was completely broke. At one point, I only had $10 to my name. I couch surfed, staying with friends for about 9 months, and I had a mountain of debt. But a friend took me to see a motivational speaker who talked about the psychology of success, and it really spoke to me. So I went to the library and borrowed the book because, Lord knows I couldn't afford to buy it. And I was just shocked to find out that there were people who were experts in success and willing to teach other people. So the next book I read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And since then, I have read hundreds, if not thousands, of books and gone to seminars and workshops. So I started applying what I learned. And the first thing I realized is that I had not taken responsibility for my role in going broke and losing my business. I had blamed the government, I had blamed the economy, and I blamed my largest client who declared bankruptcy. But I really started taking a hard look and realized that it was mostly what I had done that caused that. I didn't like the way my life was. I didn't want to couch surf anymore. So I started identifying what I did want my life to look like. I just started setting visions for what I wanted it to look like. And then I set goals around that. I had never set goals in my entire life. And I was just amazed. I got a job making more money than I had ever made in my life and more money than I had asked for in my goal. And I got a bank to give me a credit card even though my credit was completely shot. Then I wrote affirmations every day about my vision for my life. That helped me believe that it was possible. I went from being broke and couch surfing to having over $1 million in assets and making a 6-figure income. But once I found the success principles, I realized that I didn't have the principles in the right order and I was missing some of them. So I started applying them, but then I found out that Jack Canfield was certifying people to train this to other people. So I signed up immediately because I've been a trainer for 25 years. I've conducted hundreds of workshops and webinars. But this to me is something that can really help everybody. So that's why I'm doing this webinar today, because my purpose is to empower people to live their best lives in joy, peace, and harmony. So let's jump in. The first success principle is take 100% responsibility for your life. If you get nothing else out of this, I want this to be it. This was the principle that really changed my life and got me on the road to success. And I want you to learn this formula, E plus R equals O. So E is an event. R is your response to the event. And outcome is the outcome that you get based on your response. So event plus response equals outcome. So let me give you a couple examples of this. When the coronavirus hit and the shutdown happened, one gym owner had to close the gym. So he was just kind of like, can't do anything, I'm shut down, just gotta wait till things open up again. And he did a lot of complaining and blaming around that. So at the end of the month, he didn't make any money. A second gym owner had the same event, right? The coronavirus was the event, had the same event. Gyms closed down. But he looked around and said, I've got all this equipment just sitting here. I ought to be able to do something with it. So he contacted the members of his gym and offered to rent them a piece of equipment. So he cleaned it, brought it to their house, got it all set up, all ready for them to go, and he did some online training sessions. At the end of the month, he actually made more money than he was making before the shutdown. So you've got two people, they've got the exact same event, the coronavirus, and had to close their gym. But their responses were drastically different. So their outcomes were drastically different. Now, the outcomes that you are currently experiencing are based on the responses that you made in the past. Now, a lot of us, when we don't get the things we want, like we don't have the income we want, or the health that we want, or the relationship that we want, we tend to blame the event. Well, that's a powerless position because it doesn't get us anywhere. But when we look at changing our response, that is a powerful position. So that's where the real power comes from. And the responses that you choose today are going to impact your outcome in the future. Now, have you ever complained about anything or anybody? Of course you have. We all have, right? Right now, and in the last couple of months, we've probably been blaming the coronavirus, the economy, definitely Wall Street, the president, Congress, you know, our state and local governments. We've probably been blaming television, internet, social media. We might even have been blaming our parents. So here's an example of a blaming mindset. The reason I'm not making any money is because I don't have any options. Well, this is turning it around and what a no blaming thought might look like. Even though I don't see any obvious options, the real reason that I'm not making any money is because I haven't thought creatively and I haven't pursued new opportunities. So that's taking responsibility, 100% responsibility for the situation. So now it's your turn. I'd like you to think about what you have blamed. Who have you blamed? What have you blamed? And what have you blamed them for over the last couple of months? And you know, you might want to grab a piece of paper and something to write with and jot these things down as we go along. So who or what have you blamed and what have you blamed them for? So let's flip it over. Instead of blaming, what could you do instead? What's one thing you could do instead of blaming? So go ahead and jot that down. So if you want to be successful and you want to thrive, you've got to give up all blaming. And you've also got to give up all complaining. Do you remember Martin Luther King? Do you remember his famous speech, "I have a complaint"? Well, he did have a lot to complain about, right? Yeah, he did. But his speech wasn't about his current situation. It was, "I have a dream." It was about his vision for the future. So you've got to focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. When you're blaming and complaining, you're focusing on what you don't want. And you have to give up all excuse making. Let me tell you about Maddie Christensen. Maddie was born with no arms below his elbows and no legs below his knees. But when he got to be about 11 years old, he wanted to play baseball. So he was fit with prosthetics so that he could play baseball, and he became the pitcher for his Little League team. And that team went on to get second place in the state championship. Now, Maddie could have made excuses, right? He could have said, oh, and he could have complained and blamed too, right? But he didn't. Instead, he said, it's not an obstacle, it's a problem to be solved. So you have to give up all your excuses and you have to become more solution oriented. Now, when it comes to E plus R equals O, there's only 3 responses that you have any control over. Your thoughts, those are the things you think. Your images, the things that you imagine and visualize, and your behavior, the things that you say and do. So let's start with thoughts. So we're going to do a little activity. You might think it's a little silly, but just do it with me, okay? So I want you to take your left hand and I want you to find that line. Everybody's got a crease at the bottom of your palm. It's also where the picture on the slide is showing. So find that line on your left hand and then find the same line on your right hand and align those. So match them up so it's perfect and then roll your hands up like you're praying. Now, most people, not all, but most people have one hand that's shorter than the other when they do this. So my right hand is shorter than my left hand, okay? So let's change that. We are going to tell the shorter hand, so take the shorter hand, put it in front of your face, And we're going to tell it to grow longer by saying grow longer 8 times. If your hands were the same, then just pick one hand and do it with that one hand. Okay, so on the count of 3, we're going to get started. 1, 2, 3. Grow longer, 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 grow longer. Okay, let's see if it worked. So to find those 2 lines again at the bottom of each of your palms, line them up, and then roll your hands up again. And it worked. Now my right hand is longer than my left hand. Okay, so let's get it back to normal. So take that same hand, put it in front of your face again, and we're going to tell it to go back to normal. So on the count of 3, we're going to say back to normal 6 times. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Back to normal, 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 back to normal. Okay, let's see what happened. So line up the bottom of your palms again, roll them up, and my right hand is now shorter than my left hand again. So to be successful, you have to harness the power of your thoughts. Now the thing is that for most of us, our thoughts are unconscious, but we do have the ability to focus our thoughts and create what we want, but we have to focus our thoughts on what we want, not on what we don't want. So success principle number 3 is decide what you want. You can't get from where you are to where you want to be if you haven't defined where you want to be. So I think about this like at this time, you know, when we're in the coronavirus shutdown, things are starting to loosen up. You know, we're starting to look at what's possible. I look at it like you're cleaning out your refrigerator, right? When you do that, there's things that you keep, there's things that you toss out, and then there's things, then you realize that you need to buy some more stuff, so you add some things. So going forward in your life, what do you want to keep? What do you want to change or get rid of? And what would you like to add? Now, to have a good, balanced life, we define what we want in 7 areas. And so we're going to go through those one at a time. But I want you to think about what you want. Don't worry about the how right now, right? We can get all caught up in, I don't see any way that I could make that happen, so I'm not going to ask for that. Just dream, and what is it you would like in your life, okay? So what is your vision? What's your vision for your business, your job, your career? Maybe you want to change careers. Maybe you love your business, but you want to see how you can do it online instead of face-to-face. Or maybe you want to become self-employed. So what is it that you want for your business, your job, or your career? The second area is financial. So this is anything financial. It can be the amount of income that you want. It could be a net worth. It could be to pay off your debt. It could be how much money you want saved for retirement. Anything financial. The third area is relationships. So this is your family, your significant other, and your friends. It could be coworkers. So what does your ideal relationship with these groups of people look like? Number 4 is health and fitness. So what do you want your health to look like? Right? We're all joking about the quarantine 15, the 15 pounds that we're going to gain during quarantine so that we can't fit into our button pants anymore. So what do you want your health and fitness to look like? It could be that you want to weigh a certain amount or wear a certain size clothes, or you want your lab reports like your cholesterol and your blood sugar to be a certain number. Maybe you want to get out of pain. Maybe it's that you want to start a routine, that you want to start working out, or you want to run a marathon, so you want to start doing training for a marathon. So what's your health and fitness wish? Number 5 is fun and recreation, because right, it's not a balanced life if we don't have fun and recreation. So what is it that you want in your life that's fun? Number 6 is personal. This is kind of a catch-all. So this can be personal and professional growth. Maybe it's some classes you want to take, or it's some books you want to read. It can also be spiritual and emotional growth. And it can also be anything that you want to own or possess, like a certain car or a house. And the last category is contribution. How do you want to make an impact on the world? So maybe it's that you want to leave a legacy, or you want to do some volunteer work, or maybe there's some groups that you want to donate to. So what do you want your contribution to look like? So these are all areas that could have been disrupted during this time and going forward, right? So you have an opportunity to change these because they have been disrupted. So this is a graphic that explains how setting a vision works. So you may have set a vision that's different than your reality. So for example, let's say that you make $50,000 a year right now, and your vision is to make $100,000 a year. You want to double your income. Well, there's a little voice inside you that may be saying, what makes you think you can do that? I don't know how to do that. We've never made that much before. What makes you think you could make that now? That kind of difference, that little is called the structural tension. So that tension, once you set what you want, that tension starts making you become aware of things that you weren't before. So you have a shift in perception. You might see things that you didn't see before. You might start getting some creative ideas of how you could do that. And those ideas excite you, and so you start getting motivated to work towards that. That moves you into action, and the action gets you results. So for example, in 2007, I was living in California working in a corporate job, and I came down to Tucson, and I just fell in love with Tucson. I knew without a doubt this is where I wanted to live. But at the time, I had no idea how to make that happen. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And that it did tension. I kind of got depressed that I had to be back in California. But I started looking at real estate in Tucson and realized I could afford to buy a second home down here. And so I did that in 2008. I couldn't move here, but I figured if I can spend a lot of my vacation time down here, that's one step closer to that happening. And then in 2014, I was able to come down to Tucson. I became self-employed a little bit after that, and I moved down to Tucson permanently. So success principle number 4 is that you have to believe it's possible. So if you set visions and keep saying, oh, I can't make this happen, it won't happen. You've got to believe it's possible. So this is Tony Robbins. He's a speaker, motivational speaker, and he's an author. And Tony was in New York a few years ago on business, and his staff was with him. And as he was leaving the hotel to go to a meeting, he said to his staff, rent us a van for tonight because I want to go to the grocery store when we get back. I want to buy a bunch of food and put together like 38 bags of groceries and take them to the homeless. So Tony came back from his meeting and he's like, okay, let's go. And they said, Tony, we weren't able to rent a van. It's like, what are you talking about? There's thousands of vans in New York. And they said, we called every single rental car agency and nobody's got a van because it's Thanksgiving weekend. And he said, well, let's get one. They said, there isn't any. So he called them over to the window and he said, look down and tell me what you see. So they looked down and they said cars, trucks, motorcycles, bicycles. They were trying to avoid the obvious, right? So eventually they went, okay, and vans, and vans. So they went down to the street and they went up to the nearest stoplight. And when the light turned red, there was a van there. So Tony went up and knocked on the window and asked if he could borrow the van, and the driver said no. But Tony didn't give up. He kept knocking on vans when they pulled up at the red light, and he did it for about 45 minutes. And then one van driver said, yes, let's do that. Get in. So Tony started to get into the front seat of the van, and there was a hat sitting on the passenger seat. The driver picked it up and Tony noticed it had a logo that said the Salvation Army. Turned out the driver was a captain for the Salvation Army. So he said, I know exactly where to go to deliver the food. So they went to the grocery store, they made the bags, and they went to an area of New York where there were some burned out buildings and homeless were living there, and they delivered it. So even though they started out saying there are no vans, Tony believed that they could get a van, and he made it happen. So now it's your turn. What have you been saying that you can't do during these last couple of months, right? Maybe it's, I can't make any money staying home. Maybe it's, I can't quit smoking. I can't quit worrying. I can't lose weight. So what is it for you? Complete the sentence, I can't. And then I want you to do it again, but I want you to change one key word. Change can't to won't. Okay, so whatever you wrote or thought of before, change it to I won't. So I won't make any money sitting home. I won't quit smoking. I won't lose weight. I won't quit worrying. Whatever that is. So what was the difference between saying I can't and I won't? Now, most people say that when they say I can't, they felt very powerless. But when they said I won't, it felt more like a choice, that they were choosing not to do that. So I want you to do it one more time and say I will this time. So I will quit smoking. I will make money at home. I will lose weight. I will quit worrying. Okay, so you just went from not believing, by saying I can't and not believing it was possible, to I will and believing it's possible. So you have to believe that it's possible. If you want to be successful, you have to stop using the word can't. Now, I just need you to know that I love quotes. So here's one from Henry Ford. If you think you can't, or if you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. Think about it. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. So not only conceiving it, but also believing it. And Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And Disneyland is proof of that. So success principle number 7 is unleash the power of goal setting. Right? This is one of the principles that I employed by setting goals for the first time in my life. And boy, I thought it was a miracle when they came true. So what's your BHAG? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? Coming out of the coronavirus and the pandemic, what is one big goal that you want to have? This would be a breakthrough goal. It's not a small goal. It's something that if you achieved it, it would take you to a whole new level. Like it's a quantum leap going forward. So for example, in 1993, Jack Canfield's BHAG for Chicken Soup for the Soul was to sell 1.5 million copies. Now, as you'll learn in a little bit, just getting it published was a challenge for them. So this was a huge goal. And they blew right by it. They ended up selling 350 million copies in China alone and 500 million copies worldwide. So it doesn't take any more effort to dream a big dream than it does to dream a small dream. So I'm asking you here to dream big, bigger than I can fit in the screen. So just to give you an idea, here's some examples of some breakthrough goals. Reinvent your business, right? That's something you might need to do right now. Maybe it's take it online, or maybe it's start a new business, write and publish a book, or maybe a newsletter or a blog, or start a podcast. Get physically healthy. So that might mean, changing your diet, doing more physical activity. It could be learning a new language. It could be going back to school and getting a degree, or it might be something similar, taking some courses and getting certified as an expert in a certain area. For business owners, it could be double our sales or double our profits. And let's say there's a company or a person that if you got them as a client, it would just catapult your business. So those are some examples. Now, when you create a breakthrough goal, it's something that you want which is measurable in time and space. So that means that it answers the question, how much by when? So it's got to be specific. So let's say you want to get new clients. That's just an intention. That's what you want, but it's vague, right? Instead, a goal would look like get 50 new clients by 5 p.m. on December 30th, 2020. So it answers the question, how much? 50 new clients, and by when? 5 p.m. on December 30th, 2020. So what's your breakthrough goal? What is a goal that you could set that would take any area of your life to the next level? Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's your relationship with your significant other or your kids. Maybe it's your health. What is a breakthrough goal that if you achieved it would catapult your life? Okay, so the next response that you have control over when it comes to E plus R equals O are your images. These are the things you imagine and visualize. So success principle number 6 is use the power of visualization. Because remember, your thoughts are powerful, and if you visualize things, it's even more powerful. So a study was done with a group of basketball players. So the first group did not practice foul shots at all. For 30 days, no practicing foul shots. The second group, for the same 30 days, they practiced foul shots on the basketball court. So every day for 30 days, they're on the court practicing. And then the third group, they didn't go on the court at all. They did all of their practicing in their minds. So same 30 days, every day for 30 days, they practiced making foul shots in their minds. At the end of the 30 days, group 1 had 0 improvement. No surprise, right? Group 2 had a 24% improvement. That's pretty good, right? If you knew that you could do something every day and get a 24% improvement, wouldn't you do it? But here's the surprising thing. Group 3 had a 23% improvement. So even though they never went on the court, they just imagined every day doing foul shots, they had just 1% less than those who practiced every day. So I'm going to test your ability to focus. Finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with the years of with the experience of years. So I'm going to bring that slide back up again, and I'm going to give you just 10 seconds to count the number of F's. Okay, so you're counting all of the F's in that statement. So on your mark, get set, go. Okay, how many did you count? Did you count 3, 4, 5, 6? Well, most people who said 3 saw these 3 F's in finished, files, and scientific. But the real answer, or the correct answer, is 6, because the word of shows up 3 times. So you might have missed of because it's not a significant word. It doesn't even represent anything physically, and it doesn't sound like F, right? When you say of, it sounds more like V, as in oven. So the point of this is, where are you focusing? So what are the opportunities, the solutions, the resources, the people, the funding, the new clients? What are all those things that you're not seeing because you're so focused on what is? You're focused on the past, and you're focused on your story about it instead of being focused on what you want. Okay, so the third thing that you have control over when it comes to E plus R equals O is your behavior. So those are the things that you do and you say. So what's the one thing that separates the winners from the losers in life? Winners take action, right? So you can sit through this episode and, you know, take notes, but if you don't take action and put these things into play, then you're not going to be successful. Success principle 13 is you have to take action. Now, there's things that stop us from taking action. So what stops you from taking action? Well, one of the things that stops people from taking action is your comfort zone. Most of us have things that we do every day that are completely unconscious to us. We don't, you know, consciously think about, do we put our left shoe on before our right shoe, or the other way? We just put our shoes on. So we have a lot of things that we do because they're comfortable for us, right? And if we want to change those things, let's say I put my shoes on the right one and then the left one, and I want to change that, I have to really focus on what I'm doing, become aware of what I'm doing now, and really work at changing that habit. So let's do another little activity. Fold your hands like in the picture and notice which thumb is on top. My right thumb is on top. So what I want you to do now is switch your hands so that the other thumb is on top. But don't just move the thumbs, move all of your fingers down. So now my left thumb is on top. How does that feel? It feels odd to me. Does it feel odd to you? Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable because it's not the way you're used to doing it. But the thing is if you held your hands in this position for 4, 5, 6 minutes, it would start to become comfortable. So you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. If we just stay in our comfort zone, nothing is going to change. And the thing is that everything that you want that you don't currently have is probably just outside your comfort zone. You're going to have to make some changes to be able to get them. So you've got your breakthrough goal, your BHAG. You can use the rule of 5 to start moving towards your breakthrough goal. And that is to do 5 things every day that will lead you there. So think about it. If you are in sales, maybe it's making 5 calls every day, Monday through Friday. At the end of the week, you would have made 25 calls. Do you think that you would be more likely to get a new client if you made 25 calls a week, even if it's uncomfortable? Yeah, you probably would. Let's say you want to get into shape. So what if you work out 30 minutes, 7 days a week? That's 3.5 hours a week of workout. Do you think you would be in better shape if you went from not working out to 3.5 hours a week? Of course it would. So what are 5 actions that you could take every day to help you reach your breakthrough goal? So you want to write these down when you have them and post them somewhere where you can see them. Otherwise, you get caught up in other things and, we lose our focus, and the next thing you know, none of these things happened. So write them down, and then every day you check them off. Okay, I did number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Yay, success for today. Now, the other thing that stops us is fear. So success principle number 15 is experience the fear and take action anyway. Here's the thing, that as human beings, we have evolved to the point that there's not a lot that can hurt us. Our fear responses were built in us back in the caveman and women days when we had to run away from, saber-toothed tigers. So we were given that action of freeze or flee, right? Fight or flight. But we don't usually need that anymore. The thing is that now we usually do the scaring ourselves. We start imagining negative outcomes to the things that we want to do, and that imagining scares us, and so we don't do it. So we have negative fantasizing that's going on. The really good news is that because we're the ones who are doing the worrying and creating the fear, we're also the ones who can stop it. So when you start feeling fear, don't let your imagination run away with you. Stop and look at the facts of the situation. So for example, when I was thinking about becoming self-employed again, I had a lot of fears that started showing up for me. And one of the big ones was that I would be homeless again. And that kept playing around and around in my head. But then I sat down and went, okay, is this real? Is this true? Will I become homeless? And the fact was, this time I had assets and I was going to be fine. So it was an old story that I was using to scare myself when I had absolutely nothing to be afraid of. So think about fear this way. It's fantasized experiences appearing real. So we are fantasizing what we think might happen. We let them appear real and we let them stop us from what we're doing. But when you feel the fear, you just got to say, oh, what the heck? I'm going to go for it anyway. Now, success principle number 17 is ask, ask, ask. And that's something that can bring up fear, right? If we have to go ask somebody for something. But let's look at Dr. Piazza. Dr. Piazza was a chiropractor. And when he graduated from chiropractor school, he wanted to settle in the Monterey Bay area of California. That's where I'm from. So he went and met with the Chiropractor Association, and they said, don't settle there. There are so many chiropractors. You're not going to be successful. You're brand new. You don't know anybody. It's not going to work. Go someplace where it's not so saturated. Well, he really wanted to live there. So he did his own research, and he went out and he knocked on doors, and he introduced himself to people and asked if they would be willing to try a new chiropractor, specifically him, right? So he ended up knocking on 12,500 doors. He got a lot of no's or no answers, but he did talk to 6,500 people who said yes, they would try out a new chiropractor. So his first month in business, he saw 233 new clients, and he made $72,000. And all that in an area where they didn't need another chiropractor. So you have to ask, ask, ask. Now, the thing that when we think about asking, often what scares us is rejection. So success principle number 8 is to reject rejection. Chicken Soup for the Soul was rejected by 144 publishers before they found someone to publish it. That's why the 1.5 million BHAG was a huge BHAG. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, and he went on to win 6 championships with the Chicago Bulls. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first TV job, and she went on to have her own TV station. And Steven Spielberg was rejected twice from USC Film School, and he went on to be one of the most popular and highly respected directors and producers in the film industry. So what do you do when people say no? You say next. So that could be the next person. You ask somebody else, or you could go back to somebody that you asked before and ask them again. So let's say you sell hand sanitizer. Maybe back in December, January, people were saying no. But now, during the coronavirus, they might be saying yes. So go back to the same people and ask a next time. In fact, you want to live your life by SW, 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 SW. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone else is waiting. This was a study done at Notre Dame University. So they did a study of salespeople, and they found that 44 people quit after trying, after the first call. So they were not saying next. 24% quit after the second call. 14% quit after the third call, and 12% quit trying to sell after the fourth call. So 94% of the salespeople were quitting after the fourth call. But here's the thing, 60% of all sales are made after the fourth call. So reject rejection, say next, and ask another time. So success principle number 22 is practice persistence. So, right, Chicken Soup for the Soul was rejected by 144 publishers. What if they had stopped there? Well, Jack Canfield wouldn't be the millionaire that he is now, that's for sure. But we also talked about Tony Robbins and knocking on van windows. What if he had given up at 40 minutes instead of kept trying for 45 minutes, right? There would have been a lot of people who would have been hungrier that night. But I think for most of us, how many of us would have given up after we called all the rental car agency and found out there were no vans? So use the law of probabilities. The more things you try, the more likely you're going to find one that works. And the more people you ask, the more likely you're going to find someone to say yes. So these are the success principles we talked about. Number 1 is take responsibility for your life. You have to stop blaming, complaining, and making excuses. And you took something that you didn't, you took responsibility for an area in your life. It was an area of were you blaming, and you flipped that around. Success principle number 3 was decide what you want. So you looked at the 7 areas of your life and started jotting down what you would want in each of those 7 areas. And then number 4 is believe it's possible. You went from I can't to I will with something. Number 7 is use the power of goal setting. What is your BHAG that's going to take you to the next level? And then 13 is to take action, even though it might feel uncomfortable, or it may bring up fear. So 15 is feel the fear and do it anyway. Number 17 is ask, ask, ask. Number 18 was reject, rejection. When you get a no, say next. And then number 19 was practice persistence. Keep asking the next person or trying something else. So go make your vision a reality. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Jody Hempel.